Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. I hope everybody had a wonderful Mother's Day. Hope you got to spend some quality time with loved ones and with your mom and with family. But we are on to a new week, and a new week means new money. So, welcome back to another edition of the Spin Zone. I'm your host, Spin Doc, with you here on behalf of the Daily Bread Network on YouTube. So, if you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the Daily Bread Network. You'll get immediate and instant notification every time we go on here. And we'll also get all of our other content as well. If you haven't yet, please make sure to follow me on X at SpinDoc Sports. Give the video a like and a share. It really does help us get our information and message out. All right. So, no show yesterday, obviously, never on Sundays, but we did have an interesting weekend of baseball. And so I always start off with what did we learn? So I talked about on Saturday with Big Jack Flaherty and how, despite the fact that his line he had just crushed the 5.5 line at home. He had a huge strikeout percentage at home. He had every reason, past history, chase, all the things. Everything said that this should have been an easy over spot, and they dropped him, and the books knew it. Jack got crunched in 3 innings, gave up 4 hits, 5 earned runs, only 4 strikeouts. I had said this yesterday, is that when the books talk, you have to listen. They have multi-billion-dollar algorithms. They have billions of dollars to invest in this stuff, and we don't. So the worst thing you can do always and forevermore as a capper is assume that you have outsmarted the books. Okay. You're trying to beat the line. You're not trying to outsmart the books. You're not trying to think, oh, well, they just don't know what they're doing because, my trend sheet or my this or my that say that this line is wrong. It's not. They're right and you're not. And no mathematical model that any of us can devise can just beat them at that regularity. Not even mine. And I win at a really high clip. So just when the line talks, you have to listen. That's why, like I said on Saturday, not necessarily going to play the under there, which I didn't, just going to ignore it, take the free lesson. And what the lesson said was the books were correct. They dropped Jack at home for a reason. He got absolutely pounded. Now, on the other side of things, there are some guys who, as I've talked about before, are on no under island for a reason. And that one of those teams, actually the Red Sox are now on there. You can't play an under on them. Cole Reagans just barely got there, but he got there. So 8 strikeouts in 5 innings. I think the whole Western world hemisphere betting on that game was on the over, as you should have been. Now, the one thing I will say about, because I got asked this a few times, both VIP and from other people who watch, is about like ladder spots. And so I want to talk just a little bit about ladder spots because we had one yesterday in VIP with Sale, and we had a really interesting discussion in our Discord yesterday about laddering and like when you want a ladder, when you don't. I know that there are people that basically just put a little something on 1 or 2 up every time, or almost every time they're on an over. And I mean, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with that. But I'm more talking about strategic, like actually giving it out as a play for a ladder. Whenever you see a guy that's at a 7.5 line, which is what Cole Reagans and what Chris Sale was at yesterday. Ben Reagans was Saturday, Sale was yesterday. So I say this all the time, is that, yeah, you can put a little bit maybe on 1 up to get 9, but when you start talking about double-digit strikeouts, when you start talking about, like 2, like 10, 11, like those types of numbers, that's just so many strikeouts. And what Sharpie and I always talk about is to hit a line like that is that you literally need everything to go right and nothing can go wrong. So you can't have any, can't have the pitcher tweak anything. You can't have a hitter that just by happenstance happens to just have an at bat where he fouls off like 8 or 9, 10 pitch at bat and then puts the ball in play. I mean, those things happen over the course of a game. The same reason why I don't typically ladder guys at that high of a number is the inverse of that is why I don't play 2.5 lines or very rarely play under 3.5 lines, because over the course of a baseball game, when a pitcher usually faces about 22 to 25 batters per start, over the course of that start, things are going to happen. Things are going to happen where it's a situation where just because of the game situation, the pitcher's not trying to strike a guy out, right? Like, let's just say you have first and third with 1 out, right? First and third with 1 out. You're more than likely going to be looking for a ground ball for a double play. A pitcher is not usually trying to just throw gas at these guys or confound them with a breaking ball. They're trying to throw something, get it in play, get a few quick outs. Stuff like that happens over the course of a game. And that's why those numbers are just so gaudy high that it's really, really hard to take a big ladder spot for guys that already start off at a high number. Things that I like to look for 5.5 and 6.5 for ladder spots. Those are usually guys that can get strikeouts and that are like maybe kind of sort of strikeout pitchers, or even like a guy like Nick Pivetta, who I've talked about. He can get strikeouts and get a lot of Ks when he needs it, but he's not necessarily by definition a strikeout pitcher. Those are the kinds of guys that I like looking for ladder spots, because just understand that like 10 strikeouts over the course of a start, even against a bad hitting team, a bad swinging team, that's a lot of strikeouts, and you need a whole bunch of things to go right, and virtually nothing can go wrong. So especially when you start at a 7.5, usually at 8.5, like say like 9+ or over 8.5, you're normally only getting like plus 135, plus 140. A lot of times that's not worth it. If you're going to do that on the higher numbers, what I would just recommend, if you think he's really going to have a day, I would just recommend just whatever you were going to put on that. I would just put it on the 2-up. I would just put it on 10+, because normally you can get plus 300 and put some lunch money on. And if you lose, you lose. Oh well, right? So that's how I would play those. And I'm talking about this too because we have a potential spot for that today. So just kind of wanted to just give like just a little bit of info here about the laddering spots. Just understand that is just so many strikeouts for a guy to get, especially at this point in the season when, some starters are going over 100 pitches, et cetera. But usually you're seeing guys in the 85 to 95 pitch range. And you think about having to strike 10 guys out in 95 pitches, that does not leave a lot of room for error. So that's kind of where I'm at for the weekend. And overall, it was a brilliant weekend for if you were in VIP and you're in here, you know what I'm talking about. We swept Thursday, we swept Saturday, we swept Sunday, and went 2-2 on Friday. So on a nice little 10-2 streak right now. And over the course of the last 4 or 5 days have made about 7.5 units. So let's keep that rolling today. Let's keep going. Before we do, wanted to give a shout out to a few people in the chat. Good morning to you, Roger. The Rockies manager didn't have a good Mother's Day. No, I actually just posted on this on X, actually in response to the Rockies public relations statement, did Black deserve to be fired? I guess with the team's record, you probably don't have a choice, but the owners are kidding themselves if they think that Black was the problem or the only problem. Black and Redmond, the GM, who also got fired. This ownership is just bleh. And I say that coming from, I mean, thankfully we have competent ownership now, but on the NBA side, my Timberwolves had incompetent ownership for years with how Glenn Taylor managed the team, and the results showed. And it's frustrating for fans. Like I feel bad for Rockies fans because Black is a decent MLB manager, but I mean, look, when you give somebody that garbage to work with, and aren't willing to spend money and aren't willing to invest in the team, I'm not sure how you expect the results to be any different. This is the same thing they've done for the last few years. It's very similar to like what the A's were doing before. And there's that old adage and old phrase is that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And so the paint by numbers PR statement that the Rockies put out, I mean, yeah, they have to do that. I get that. But, words like, analyze where to invest in the team. Where you can invest in the team is in your fucking wallet. That's where you can invest in this team. And you don't want to do it. And it's also, you got to remember, you play in a division with the Dodgers and the Padres and the Diamondbacks, who aren't a big spenders, but they have built their team analytically through a lot of young players and a lot of analytics. And now they're adding on top the money spend with when they signed Corbin Burns and a few other guys. So like you're in one of the toughest divisions in baseball, and you're like the worst ownership in the league, and you're one of the cheapest owners in the league. I didn't think anybody could out cheap the Pohlads, who own the Twins, my hometown team, but the Manforts have done that. So I feel bad for Rockies fans because like I used to like watching the Rockies, man. Like it's fun watching a game at Coors, and you got all the runs and the thin air and all that stuff. I mean, even back just a few years ago when they had Tulowitzki and some of those guys, I used to like John Gray on the mound. I used to like watching the Rockies, but it's bad, and it's going to be bad for the next several years. And unfortunately, it's probably going to be bad until the Manforts decide to sell, which I'm not sure that they're going to. So anyway, Kev Burke saying Bob Nutting would like a word in Pittsburgh. Y'all are in better shape than the Rockies are. I mean, there's at least some young talent on the Pirates, but yeah, incompetent owners suck, man. Like I said, I dealt with it on the NBA side. I dealt with it for years with Glenn Taylor with the Timberwolves. We happened to luck into him hiring Flip Saunders and getting just hitting the lotto with Garnett that one year, and then we're able to build around him with him and McHale. But overall, I am so glad that A-Rod and Lori are taking over, but this is a baseball show, so we'll get back to baseball. And a happy belated Mother's Day to Mom Who Bets. New week, new money. Let's go indeed. So with that in mind, we will get on with the business of the day. And the first pitcher that we have today, as I get the metrics chart up, so metrics here, these are as of this morning. So this is the last 2 weeks of data comprised of all the usual swing metrics. And the first pitcher we're going with is Christopher Sanchez. We talked about how road Sanchez is a thing. Home Sanchez is a thing too. So Christopher Sanchez, the lefty, striking guys out at a 28% clip, 8.9% walk rate, gets the Cardinals tonight at 6:45 Eastern time. And this line is exactly what I thought it would be. I was pretty sure I was going to talk about Sanchez today. When I woke up this morning, before I even looked, I said, I bet you the overnight line is going to be almost a dead even 5.5. And that's exactly what we got. So we're getting this for a couple of reasons. Number one is you look at Sanchez's home performances here, and he has hit this in every single home start. He has actually obliterated it in multiple starts, and he has obliterated it against teams that do a few things. Number one is, especially with a lot of the teams that he's got it against, is that if you don't make contact when you chase. So Sanchez is a sinker baller. He's got the added velo. That's wonderful. But he still does get people to swing and miss. And if you're not going to make contact when you chase, especially against his slider and especially against his changeup, because the sinker and the changeup run in about the same area of the plate. You're talking with Sanchez being a lefty, they run this way on our clock in the 11 to 9 range, and both of them run relatively in the same area. Different spin patterns. One comes in 10 miles an hour below the other one. So we look at our swing metrics chart over here, and we do see that the Cardinals are about league average in chasing, but the Cardinals also are not swinging, and this has been pretty true for most of the year, are not swinging in the zone, 64%, which is under league average. Now, looking at this projected lineup right now, we see a few things. Number one is we see that we have a projected of 3 lefties and 6 righties, and at least 2 of the lefties that are projected to be in, Nootbaar and Donovan, I would be shocked if they aren't in. Victor Scott probably will be in, but he would be the other one. Sanchez striking righties out at a little bit higher clip than lefties, but it's nothing that's really like concerning at all. The one thing though too is, as I said, it's when you chase and do you make contact when you do, because Sanchez is allowing 45.2% chase contact. That's the best mark of any pitcher going today, and that is throwing today. And we see that the Cardinals do have a 65.2% chase rate, which is above league average. Now, of these guys that are in the projected lineup, you have a couple guys that do make pretty good chase contact. Wynn makes good chase contact. Nolan Arenado makes good chase contact. Lars Nootbaar makes good chase contact. Brendan Donovan makes great chase contact. The chase whiff is typically in the bottom half of their lineup, and we see that again today with Pegas way down at 48.3%. We see Walker down at 37%, and we see Scott down somewhere in the 50s. So you have an opportunity here with the bottom of this lineup, especially if they're going to DH Ivan Herrera. Really, the focus spots here are on the 7, 8, and 9 hitters, because those are the guys that can both chase and not make contact when they do. You actually have some pretty patient and high contact guys all the way 1 through 7. And even Nootbaar and Donovan being lefty hasn't been that huge of a concern. Sanchez already did face the same Cardinals team, but it was on the road. We've talked about road versus home Sanchez, and he only got 3 strikeouts, but did record 19 outs. So pitched a lot more to contact. And looking across his outs totals, for teams that either make contact when they chase or that don't chase, you kind of see that across the spectrum. So you see the Giants, they have a lot of guys that don't chase. Sanchez torched him for 12 strikeouts, but he also got 21 outs. You see that he got 18, which over 17 and a half outs, which is what his outs prop is today. He hit that against the Rays, who also have a number of guys in their lineup that don't chase. So I look at this lineup, and I think this line is set pretty correctly for what it should be. I think that the books definitely know that Sanchez over, especially when you give him a home over at plus money, is going to be a popular thing. It's going to be a popular bet, even though it's against a high contact team. People are going to flock to this over because of what this man's strikeout percentage is at home. I'm not convinced at the moment. I'm really not. What I see here is, if this is the projected lineup that they run, and this is the order in which they run it, then I do see him facing, he'll face Pegas, Walker, and Scott twice each. But then you're talking about having to get some of the really tough guys, or you're talking about having to get Pegas, Walker, or Scott, probably get 2 of them 2 times. That's a tough ask. that's a really tough ask. So a couple guys that I wouldn't mind seeing in this lineup instead would be I wouldn't mind seeing Gorman in this lineup. That would be nice because he chases, he doesn't make contact when he chases. I wouldn't mind seeing actually probably Gorman's one of the only one. Gorman and yeah, that's Baker maybe, but I would be surprised if he was in. So if Gorman is in for one of these projected top 6, then you might be able to convince me on an over. In absence of that, I would want to see where Pegas, Walker, Scott, let's just say this is the lineup, where are they batting? Because if there's 7, 8, 9 with these top 6, the only one in that top group that I see as being like a very, very gettable, I don't want to say easy, but very, very gettable guy would be Contreras. So you figure one from Contreras, one from Peg. I mean, even if you get one from Pegas, Walker, and Scott, that's 4. So now he's got to get 2 more, which means he's got to get one of those 3 guys twice, or he's got to get one of the really hard guys to K, which I mean, Arenado and Nootbaar, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's why this line is set up. I don't think it's a trap line. I think it's just set exactly where it should be. So what I would look for on this one is I'm not going to go against Sanchez at home for an under. I'm just not going to do it. He's been too dominant at home. His velo in his last start was nothing to be worried about. So I'm not going to go against this man on his home mound. What I am going to look for, though, is to see where those guys that I mentioned are in the lineup. If they're 7, 8, 9, I'm probably just going to leave it be. If you start moving some of them up in the lineup and he might face them 3 times, and then you give me, let's just say you give me Gorman, now I might be interested in an over. So that's where I am with Sanchez. Like I said, I wanted to include him because I figured he'd be a popular shot. I figured he'd be a popular play, and people would want to be on him at home. So moving on, the next one, another guy who is always going to be popular, Paul Skeens, righty, striking guys out at 24.7%, 6.3% walk rate, goes to Citi Field against the Mets tonight at 7:10 Eastern. This line is also almost exactly where I thought it would be, with a slightly plus money over 6.5 and an under 6.5, which is, I would say, in that medium middle juice range. So let's talk about Paul Skeens. Skeens so far for this year, and we've talked about this a number of times, is that if he's going to get Ks, he's going to have to make people miss in the zone. He's got a 49.9% zone rate, so that's above pitcher average, but his zone contact allowed is 78.8%. That's one of the best marks of any pitcher throwing today. And I've talked before a number of times about one of the reasons behind it is that for his his drop, I guess if you want to call it that, in strikeouts is because of the pitch mix that he's throwing. This year, Skeens is throwing a different mix than he has over the previous few years. So he has dropped his number of curveballs, and he has upped his number of sweepers. Last year, he threw the curve and the sweeper almost the same, 230 and versus 212. This year so far, 109 sweepers versus 45 curveballs. So almost a 2.5 to 1 ratio for those pitches. Now, also talked about Skeens before, is that he doesn't work around the clock. He works along the sides of the clock. So his four-seamer, his changeup, and his splitter all go in that 1 to 4 range over here on this side. And over here is where you have a lot of the breaking stuff with the slider, sweeper, and the curve. But the sweeper doesn't have the same whiff rate that the curveball does, but it does have a much lower opponent batting average. So guys are putting it into play, not getting hits. The curveball carries a higher batting average and a higher hard hit percentage allowed when guys get a hold of it, but it's got a higher whiff rate. So that is just that's always what I've seen this year for Skeens, is that when he's using less of the curve and more of the sweeper, his sweeper induces a lot more weak contact, whereas his curveball, just with the way he throws it, is designed to generate whiffs. So right now tonight he gets the Mets, and we look at the Mets and we see, first of all, the Mets do have a home road disparity in their overall strikeout percentage. It's not as significant as, say, the Diamondbacks, who are like almost 10% better, but it is a significant road home disparity in the percentage of time that they do strike out. So I look at zone swing and I look at zone contact. So I see Mets, one of the more elite teams over the course of this season, in one of the more elite teams over the course of this season with zone contact. They do have a number of guys in this lineup, which as of right now is projected to be 5 lefties and 4 righties, which so far this year, Skeens actually is striking out lefties at a slightly higher percentage than he is righties. But I'm looking for zone, and I'm looking for zone swing, and I'm looking for zone contact. And I go across this lineup and I see that Lindor is slightly above average. Soto is always good at making contact in the zone. Alonso's good at making contact in the zone. Nemo's league average. Vientos is slightly under league average. Alvarez is not the greatest. Now, there have been a few games where Ronald's little brother, Luis Angel Acuna, I thought he's been in the projected lineup when I'm looking at an under, and he was not. So he is projected to be in tonight, and his zone contact has been absolutely elite this year. And I actually wouldn't be surprised if he is in, if he's batting a little bit higher in the lineup, because he's got absolutely blazing speed. So 88.9% zone contact, which is one of the best marks on the Mets. And then you also have McNeil and you have Taylor at the bottom. So Taylor is a guy where, even though the numbers say that he might not strike out here, Taylor is a guy that can easily get in his own head, and he can have a blow up night where he goes like 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. So McNeil, I'm not as worried about. But if this is the projected lineup that they are going to throw out there, this would be a lean on the under for Skeens. His overall road strikeout percentage this year is actually better than at home. It's 30.1%. And those games have been against the Cardinals, the Dodgers, the Rays, and the Marlins, where he has never failed to get 6 strikeouts in a road game this year. However, when I look at some of the zone contact across some of those teams, when he faced the Dodgers, it was when their zone contact was, at the time at least, it was outright poor. It still is, as you can see by the chart, under league average. When the Marlins have been horrible at a lot of different things from a contact perspective, and the Rays, during the time he faced them, were not as elite as they are now. So the teams that Skeens can typically rack up strikeouts against are teams that do whiff in the zone, and the Mets, and especially at home, don't do that. So I think this one is lined absolutely correct. For me to want to get on an over, I would need to see Beatty in the lineup. Hayden Singer being in the lineup would for sure make me interested. And probably the only other person that they could put in there that would make me interested would be Francisco Alvarez, maybe. So if you start seeing some of those names pop up instead of some of the ones that I just mentioned, then for me, it's probably just going to be a pass. But I'm still not 100% convinced that I want to try to take a -140 or -150 shot against this man, just because of how good his overall stuff is. Now, when I look at Skeens' other props, his outs prop is down from the last few games. It was at 18.5. I get it, because he's on the road. And It's only down 1 and it's juice. So it's not like it's huge. Hits, walks, and earned runs are all pretty much where they should be. So slightly on the under for Skeens. I do want to see all of this zone contact in the lineup, because what I might actually be looking to do if I see that, especially if his earned runs don't move right now, because it's 1.5 with the best line I can find on the over is -150. Best line on the under is +115. If it stays like that and we get this zone contact lineup and the out stay at 17.5, I actually would be more interested in his outs. And I'd be more interested in over 17.5 outs, because I can see a lot of pitching to contact. I can see a lot of inducing weak contact, especially with some of the pitch mix change that I talked about, where he is throwing more in the zone. Because I do go across this lineup and I look at, and some of them admittedly do have some a limited sample size, but I look at some of the batting averages for this team use against a sweeper, and like Tyrone Taylor, 61 sweepers he's seen so far this year, batting .056. Even Acuna, 44 sweepers seen, batting .250. You have Nimmo batting .250. You have Soto batting .250, and all of these guys are not making great contact against a sweeper. Virtually all of them have pretty slugging percentages as well, and hard hit percentage. And so I talked about how Skeens is using his sweeper a little bit more to induce that weak contact. When you start talking about hard hit percentage, I would want to see probably at least 40%, 35-40%, but I'm seeing Taylor is 25. Luis Angel is at 20. I see Soto's at 33.3. So you got a lot of guys making weak contact against this sweeper that Skeens is throwing a lot more. So I'm not as interested in his strikeouts tonight, but I am interested in his outs if we get this lineup, because I can see a lot of weak contact. I can see him going 6 1/3, maybe coming, maybe getting 6, maybe getting 7, somewhere in that range. That's the kind of start that I see for Skeens tonight. All right. Last but not least, and then we will get to, I saw a few questions in the comments. We will get to those as well. All right. The one that everybody will be on, the public play of the day, Mr. Michael King, striking guys out at a 27% clip, walking guys at 7.9%. You've heard me talk about this team before. You can see it on the chart way down there at the bottom. The Anaheim Angels at 9:40 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to talk about this line first before we talk about anything about how to play this thing. Because when you're talking about the Angels, you're playing it over or you're playing nothing. They are on no under island for me. I cannot play an under for them. It does not matter who it's against. I don't care if it's a T-ball pitcher in there. I don't care if it's one of those pitching machines that they used to use back when you were in like grade school. I won't play an under against the Angels. Their swing metrics are too god-awful atrocious. Now, let's talk about the Michael King line for today. Okay, first of all, you see the over 6.5, and this is across the board. Absolutely stupid, ridiculous, dumb juice at -170 with, and actually that is under 6.5, not 7.5. The under 6.5 is at +130. So I've talked about before how sometimes you see what are called, there's trap lines, there's pick-me lines, which is when they're trying to induce action on a certain side. I think that Sanchez maybe is a little bit of pick-me, but I think that the books just knew that if they set the line appropriately, that the public would follow suit, because people love to bet overs anyway. They love to bet overs on Sanchez at home. So that one is not so much. This line to me, says a couple things. Number one, because when I compare it against his other props, is that his outs are at 17.5, which is what they normally are. So there's nothing that would indicate that he's going to pitch some kind of complete game, magical gem. His hits are down at 3.5. You might think that means that he's going to torch these guys, and he could. However, his hits have been at 3.5 3 times this year and they've been at 4.5, 5 times. So this is not a new thing for him. Now, he has gone under that hit total when it's been at 3.5, 2 out of the 3 times it's been set. And he's also only allowed 3 hits in his last 2 starts. So I get why they're moving it down and juicing the hell out of the over. Walks are where they should be. Earned runs, 1.5. It's down from last game, but that was at Yankee Stadium. His earned runs have been at 1.5 throughout the entire season. So I think that this is not necessarily the book saying that Michael King is going to go out there and absolutely murk up the Angels. I think what this is a combination of the opponent and not knowing for sure what the opponent's lineup is going to be. And I'll explain more about that in a moment. And also saying that this is the Angels tax. So teams that are horrible swinging the bat, or teams that are good, like you have the Guardians on one end, and you have the Rockies and et cetera, and the Angels on the other end, is that you get a little bit of tax on them. So normally you get either 1 strikeout up from what the total should be, or you get a little bit of tax where it's okay, yeah, you can go ahead and take the over on this one, but you're going to pay for it, right? And the reason why they do that is that if it goes over, they're hoping to make the underprice as attractive as possible for sharp bettors, people who want to put it in parlays, people who want to gamble a little bit more, etc. So that if he goes over, which to me that's the only way you do play it, is that the heavy juice that the book has and the winners, no juice, and then the unders bettors who didn't pay juice pay the over bettors, and the book just takes a wash on it. So I think that the books also know that Michael King at home against the Angels, ain't nobody betting this under. Nobody's going to be betting. Very, very few people in the public are going to be betting this under. So you try to set it as gaudy as you can. And I don't think it's to keep people off. I think it's just, hey, if you want it, you're going to have to pay up. You're going to have to incur some risk on this one to make this happen. So when I look at the overall projected lineup for the Angels, which as of right now is 3 lefties and 6 righties, King for the season is striking out lefties at a higher clip, 28-4 versus 25 for righties. Now, King is a guy who is in the zone about league average, but he does allow some pretty good or has a lack of zone contact allowed. He's down at 79.7%. One of the only pitchers that are better today at not allowing zone contact is Paul Skeens, who we just talked about. So you can see the Angels as a team is that where they don't make contact is where they chase. They do have some guys that are poor at zone contact, but they do swing a lot in the zone, and their zone contact is below average, but it's also very top and bottom heavy. So I look at this lineup and going piece by piece is that I see Neto here is Neto is right at average for zone contact. Sean Yell is a dead spot. He makes contact on everything. Taylor Ward has very good zone contact. Soler has average zone contact. And Ohapi is poor at zone contact. Rengifo is average or above average at zone contact. So really it's going to come down to, because they have Yohan Moncada projected to be in. He's good at zone contact. The bottom 2, Adele and Paris. Adele and Paris can easily combine for 3 or 4 strikeouts. And so there are other guys that the Angels can put in this lineup that would make this a little bit more iffy. Even a guy like Tim Anderson, whose contact metrics are not great, but I would rather have him in than Adele. I would have him in than Paris. Travis d'Arnaud would be another one. So there's a few guys that they can put in this lineup to make the over 6.5 a little more iffy of a proposition. So I think that that's why it's lying the way that it is right now. If for me, if I'm going to play Michael King tonight, I'm not playing this over 6.5 at this absolutely stupid juice. I see that it's gone down to -150, I think, on BetMGM. I'm not even going to play that. What I'm looking to do with Michael King is one of two things. One, if it's an absolutely trash contact lineup, if there's some of those changes that I just mentioned that are in, or if I see that guys like Adele and Paris are not in the 8 and the 9 hole, are further up, or if Shanuel has the night off, which I don't think he will, but if Shanuel's out, or if Neto being out would be fine too, Ward being out, Ward, Shanuel, Neto in that, or Shanuel, Ward, Neto in that order being out would be very, very good for us if you want the over. D'Arnaud being in would be very good if you wanted the over. You probably would also you probably also want Paris and Adele to be batting higher than 8th or 9th. So I think there's just a lot of unknowns right now. Angels have actually gone with a bunch of different lineups, a bunch of different like their 9 in order is not easy to project. So want to see how they organize and construct this lineup. But what I'd be looking to do with King is I would actually be looking to take him instead of over 6.5, I'd be looking to take 8+, if anything. So if it's the right lineup and it's the lack of zone contact in that lineup, what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to take King at an 8+. I'm probably not looking to ladder at 8, 9, whatever, for the reasons I talked about before with Reagans and some of those, and Sale and some of those other guys. That is just so many damn strikeouts. So many strikeouts. So for me, it's going to be a ladder spot, a little mini ladder, like a little step stool ladder going up to 8+, or it's going to be nothing. All right. That is where I'm at with all of that. So we do have some other looks, sides, and totals that I want to get to quickly, but I also see some comments here. Scott, welcome in. Appreciate you being here, my guy. Says, you think the Cubs and the Rangers win, or are we getting a big dog winning today? That's a really good question. So some of the dogs that I actually like for today, I think the Cubs win today, yes. And the Rangers, yeah, I don't know if I can go against either one of them. I think if you wanted to, you could probably just put both of them in a money line parlay. That would get you to plus money. But there is the whole thing about teams play better after they fire their manager and all that stuff. Like there's sometimes that narrative, but my God, the Rockies are just so atrociously bad. I can't do it. I can't do it for that one. So let's see. I think this is the same question. Rangers and Cubs. Yes, I do think that they both win today. And Roger says, thoughts on he ain't my buddy, about Justin Verlander. So Justin Verlander does get the Diamondbacks. It's interesting because the Diamondbacks do have a home road disparity in striking out against right-handed pitchers. At home, they're at about 16.5%, which is the best mark in baseball. On the road, they're at about 24%, which is slightly below average. So the thing with the Diamondbacks is they're on the road, but there's a lot of good past history here with Verlander against them. 26.3% strikeout percentage in 99 plate appearances. That's a pretty healthy mark. But Verlander spends so much time in the zone. He's got one of the highest zone rates of any pitcher today that for me, it's all about zone contact. And the Diamondbacks are elite at zone contact. So it's interesting that they didn't put him at a 4.5 with heavy juice on the over or a 5.5 with heavy juice on the under. I'm going to wait for the final lineup to come out, but this potentially could be an under spot, even with some of the Diamondbacks strikeout issues on the road. Now, it has been against much better pitchers than Verlander, or pitchers that are in better form than Verlander. The other thing that I think of is they have a number of high contact righties in the lineup, and Verlander is only striking out righties at 18.9% this year. So I don't know how I'm going to do Verlander yet, but I can't imagine an over in this spot, just especially with the way it's lined right now. I already talked about a few of the ones that I think would win today, but if you're looking for a plus money, if you're looking for a plus money line, I actually think that the Cardinals have value at plus 148, even though they are facing Sanchez. And I think that there's enough value there. This line, which is really interesting with the movement of it, because the Cardinals opened at plus 159, and despite 77% of the bets and 62% of the money are pouring in on Sanchez and the Cardinals at the juice, it's gone down 11 cents. So the Cardinals are at plus 148 now. To me, that signifies that there's a lot of value, or somebody who knows something finds a lot of value on the Cardinals today. So Cardinals plus 148 would be one that I would look at. And then I think that if you want to gamble a little bit, if you think that Skeens is going to have a really, really, really good start, I think that the Pirates, either first five or the full game money line, might make some sense. That's if you wanted to gamble. And then for totals, the ones that I was probably looking the heaviest at, this is me a little chalky, but Pirates and Mets under 7.5. And then I think that was it from baseball. The one thing I did want to close with, just because I do know this team so well, because they're my home team, watch them every game, is the Timberwolves and the Warriors. So Timberwolves and Warriors are at 10 o'clock Eastern tonight. And obviously the fan in me says Wolves by 1,000,000, but I do think that Golden State puts up a fight tonight. So obviously I think that we win, especially without Steph. I think that we win, but I'm never personally going to bet against my team. So I'm never going to, I just leave it alone if I'm not going to bet on them to cover. But I think that if you wanted to, there is some value right now on Golden State plus 5.5. I can see this being a one possession game, because I mean, even if Steph comes back after this, I mean, this is basically Golden State's season on the line tonight. So, and then from a totals perspective, these games have been ugly. They've really uglied these games up so far, and most of them have gone under 200. I have a feeling this one goes over tonight, not by much. So you might want to wait and see if you can get a better price live. But I have this one probably in the 203 to 205 range, and the winning team barely goes, so like a 104 to 99 type of thing. Somewhere in that range is kind of how I'm seeing this game. So and then for the other one, for the Celtics and the Knicks, I think that the Knicks were woken up. They had a little bit, played a little lackadaisical, and Tibbs the other night, and Boston was in desperation mode. You saw what happened. Usually in these spots, the home team gets right. I personally think that the Knicks can win the game outright. I really do. I think that, like I said, Boston was in desperation mode, and you saw what happened last night in a very, very similar situation, with Indiana winning the first two games on the road, and then Cleveland coming back and smacking them with playing with desperation, and Indiana righted themselves. And just based on what I'm seeing from this one, I can see Knicks plus 6.5 for me is probably for sure going to be a play. But if you really want to gamble, you can take Knicks to win the game outright. All right. And one last thing, trying to rob FanDuel. Good morning to you as well, my guy. Appreciate you being here. All right, that's going to do it today. Please, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to the Daily Bread Network. Please follow me on X at SpinDoc Sports. Like the video, give us some love. We appreciate that. Smash the like button. Best of luck if you are tailing any of this, and we will see you tomorrow.